Starting off this countdown, we have the deck of cards. Now, I don't know about you, but normal deck of cards don't have number 1 cards. In replace, they have aces. But would you look at that? This odd deck had 1s, which makes me very uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but I've never seen this before. If we're playing Go Fish and you whip out a 1, I'm leaving, I'm sorry. Jokes aside, we have decks with aces because they can serve as the highest card or lowest. So it can serve as a 1 or more than 1. That's why we don't have 1s, according to Google, don't quote me. So I don't know where this person got their cards from, but it just seems wrong.
In our number 9 spot today we have the Iceman. Okay, this one is not an object because it is rather a mummy who was once a real living person, but I still had to include him on this list today because this story is wild. The mummy of Ötzi, who is also referred to as the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Ötztal Alps in Italy. It is believed that Ötzi lived around 3000 BCE and his body became mummified and preserved because of the glacier that surrounded him post-mortem. While this is an incredibly interesting discovery, the finding of Ötzi may have come in a package with an old curse just waiting to be released. Here's the thing, the people who helped with the discovery of Ötzi are all dying under mysterious circumstances. I mean, we're currently at person number 7 within 1 year, so that's very suspicious. When molecular archaeologist Tom Loy was writing a book about Ötzi, he passed away from a blood-related condition that he was diagnosed with shortly after becoming involved with the Iceman. The German tourist Helmut Simon, who discovered the mummy, fell to his death while hiking in the same spot he saw Ötzi. Dieter Warneck, who was the head of the mountain rescue team that was assigned to find the mummy, died of a heart attack at age 45, just an hour after Simon's funeral. To avoid this becoming an hour-long list, I'll stop here, but that is just half of those who seemingly fell victim to the curse of the Iceman. I don't know, maybe disturbing a man who's been in the same spot for 53 centuries wasn't the best idea anyone has ever had. In our number 8 spot today we have the Hope Diamond. This gorgeous, unusually large diamond is a blue color and worth an insane $250 million. In the off chance you have that kind of money laying around, I still wouldn't recommend purchasing it because it is said to be cursed. The curse dates back to the 17th century and it is said that whoever wears the diamond will have great misfortune and misery. Legend goes that the diamond was stolen from the eye of a sculpted statue of the Hindu goddess Sita, and since then it has been cursing whoever owns or possesses the 115-carat diamond. Stories of the horrible fates of those who have since owned the diamond include people taking their own lives, people being killed intentionally by others, and some accounts even claim that the owner was, quote, torn to pieces, which sounds like one of the worst fates out there. There have since been replicas made of the stone, and I think just to be as safe as possible, I'll probably stay away from those. Just in case. In our number 7 spot today we have Robert the Doll. Annabelle gets a lot of attention for being a haunted doll, but Robert is just as terrifying. Robert the Doll was a childhood birthday gift from a grandfather to his grandson, who was also named Robert, but more often went by Gene. The story claims that while growing up with Robert, Gene would often be heard by his parents in his bedrooms having conversations with himself in 2 entirely different voices. His parents would sometimes be woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of Gene screaming, only to find him completely frightened in bed with overturned furniture around him. Gene would then blame Robert for all of the strange happenings, and at the time, no one really believed him. Gene kept Robert into adulthood and it became what people would describe as an unhealthy relationship. Apparently, Gene took Robert everywhere with him and spoke as if he was a living entity rather than a doll. Okay, this story is already not great, but it gets worse. Gene lived in a house as an adult that was called the Artist's House. Robert would be left in the upstairs window where children in the area reported seeing the doll disappear and reappear, and they all chose to just stay clear of the house. After Gene passed away in 1974, a woman named Myrtle purchased the house, and apparently Robert as well. Visitors of the house could swear that they could hear footsteps and giggling coming from the attic where Robert was, and some even claimed to see the doll's expression changed if someone spoke poorly of Gene. Myrtle reported Robert moving around the house on his own, and after 20 years she decided she had had enough and donated him to a museum. Robert still lives in the museum where he is safely locked up, but it is said that he still likes to place a little curse on those who take his photo without permission. The walls of the museum near Robert's glass case are riddled with notes from previous visitors and naysayers who are begging Robert for his forgiveness and asking him to remove any curse he has placed on them. In our number 6 spot today we have the Atlantis Ring. The Atlantis Ring was originally made of clay and it was found in 1860 in the Valley of the Kings in a tomb of an Egyptian high priest. It was then passed on to Howard Carter, who kept kept it until he passed away in 1939. The ring was believed to be at least 5,000 years old, and it had geometric symbols carved into it that were unlike anything known in Egypt. Here's where the story gets a little weird though. Howard is one of the people who discovered King Tut's tomb, and he would later tell people he was wearing a talisman when the tomb was opened, also known as the Atlantis ring. He claimed that the ring gave him protection, and that just might be true because he is the only member of the team who didn't die a mysterious death after the opening of the tomb. Even those who visited shortly after the opening of the tomb were subject to this curse, with a total of 18 victims in the end. Howard said that the ring is what protected him against whatever evil forces were at play. So I guess maybe the Atlantis ring is more like an anti-cursed object? I don't know, but what I do know is that it is all quite curious. There are now replicas that are sold, but I'm not sure if any hold the power of the real deal. In our number 5 spot today we have Thomas Busby's chair. Thomas was a man who lived in Thirsk, North Yorkshire, and wasn't known as a very nice man, but he really loved his chair. I guess we all gotta have something. In 1702 he found his father-in-law sitting in it, and it sparked an argument between the two. The father-in-law threatened to take his daughter back, which should have never been a threat considering she's a grown woman, but I guess that's what went on in 1702. Anyway, that's when Busby kicked him out of the house. After this, Busby ended up going over to the father-in-law's house and actually killed him with a hammer and then hid his body in the woods. Of course, the body ended up being found, and this led to Busby getting convicted and sentenced to death. It is said that on his ride to the execution, he asked to stop by his favorite pub for a beer, and this request was fulfilled. Apparently, as he finished his drink, he said, "May sudden death come to anyone who dares sit in my chair." I really don't know what it is with this guy in his chair, but while it currently resides in the Thirsk Museum, it has been recorded that many terrible fates have been met by the people who have sat in the chair. In 1972, it was decided to hang the chair from the ceiling so that no one could ever sit in it again, which is probably for the best. So now, knowing this story, I want you to let me know in the comments, if you had the chance, would you sit in the chair? I wouldn't. In our number 4 spot today we have Annabelle the doll. When I saw the 2014 Annabelle movie, I had no idea it was actually based on a real life doll, but since starting my job here at Most Amazing Top 10, I know all about the real story. This doll now resides inside of the Warrens Occult Museum, where it absolutely belongs, but this story starts off with a college student named Donna who received the doll as a gift from her mother, who had purchased it from an antique store. Donna and her roommates started to notice some pretty creepy things happening and swore that the doll was moving. They said it would appear in different places and positions throughout their apartment before things began to escalate. Donna began to find notes that said help in her apartment, and one night found the doll in a different position and covered in some sort of red substance. The girls then decided to contact a medium who solidified all of their beliefs and told them that the doll had been possessed by the spirit of someone who was killed in their apartment building. For some reason, the girls didn't immediately get rid of the doll, and the story goes that their friend Lou, who was at the girls' apartment, heard strange noises one night and went to investigate, and he was then attacked and killed by Annabelle. The girls finally contacted a priest who told them that the doll was possessed by a demon straight from hell, and then put them in contact with Ed and Lorraine Warren. They tried to do an exorcism on the doll, but it apparently failed, and now it is kept in a glass box in the museum, where it hopefully cannot and will never do any more damage. In our number 3 spot today we have the Uluru Rock. The Uluru Rock is a large sandstone formation that is located in the southern part of the Northern Territory in Australia. It is sometimes known as Ayers Rock, but regardless of what it is called, this area is sacred for the people indigenous to this place. This is part of the reason that those who visit the rock are asked not to take anything from the site. Despite this, people of course still choose to smuggle pieces of the rock out of the area and home with them. Well, other than the bad karma and just in general feeling like a bad person for doing the one thing you're asked not to do, as it turns out, this rock may hold a more sinister secret. Those who have stolen rocks from the Uluru have experienced things like extremely bad luck, severe illness, and even sometimes the death of those they love. The curse these rocks hold is seemingly so bad that it is very common for the company that runs the tours of the formation to receive letters of apology that contain the stolen rocks. Apparently these letters come so often, at least one a day is expected. Maybe Maybe this is a weird coincidence, but it just seems to be happening a little too often for that to be the explanation. In our number 2 spot today we have the Bassano vase. The Bassano vase was cast from silver in the 15th century and was apparently a wedding present for a bride who lived in a small village in Napoli. On the wedding night, however, the bride was found dying on the floor with her hands wrapped around the vase. With her last breaths, she vowed to have her revenge, and at this point it became unclear whether the vase was already cursed, or perhaps if this may be what caused the curse in the first place. As time went on, the vase was handed from person to person within her family, and with each new owner came a mysterious death. Because of this, the family decided to hide the vase away in some sort of secret location, and this worked for a while, until the vase was unearthed once more in 1988. The vase also contained a piece of paper from the family that warned, "Beware, this vase brings death." Well, of course, whoever found the vase did not listen, and instead, they sold it once again. The first buyer, who is said to have been a pharmacist, owned the vase for 3 months before passing away under mysterious circumstances. Then there was the 37-year-old surgeon who died after having the vase for 2 months. After this was the archaeologist who only made it 3 months with this vase in his possession, and at this point you get where this is going. We don't know exactly where the vase ended up, but I'm hoping it's somewhere deep underground. Or maybe in space. Or maybe in the Mariana Trench. Just anywhere far away from all of us. In our number 1 spot today we have the Goddess of Death. This statue is sometimes also known as the Woman from Lem. This artifact, made out of limestone, was created sometime around 3500 BC, and it was found in Cyprus in 1878. Over the years it has belonged to many different families who have all been ruined and dismantled by death. After the first 6 years of ownership, all 7 members of the first family died. It then moved on to a second owner, and after 4 years, death began to come to him and his family. There was then a long period where it was unclaimed, but once the third family got a hold of it, several members of that family began to die as well. The third family ended up turning it over to the Royal Scottish Museum, where it thankfully still resides. However, the museum curator who handled the item was mysteriously killed a few days after. It is clear whatever curse this statue holds, it is strong and frightening.
Starting us off at number 10 is the China set. Sort of anticlimactic, I know, but I feel like the backstory of this one more than makes up for it. 3 pieces of the set were found in a wad of old newspapers under the porch of a house made sometime in the early 1900s. It had clearly been there for a long ass time since it was covered by a bunch of decayed dirt and so the homeowner kind of just put it on their windowsill and forgot about it. A few weeks later, one of his old neighbors walked by and noticed the china and asked him where he got them, saying they looked really similar to a set another neighbor used to own. Now the other neighbor was a Mrs. Dillon who used to get beaten by her husband, and then one day out of nowhere her husband just wound up dead. Mrs. Dillon then became very reclusive and quickly moved away without telling anyone, not even her friends. The homeowner appreciated the story, but low-key didn't really care until the next morning. They found the set inside their house when they damn well never brought it inside. Both cups even had tea in them, like, can you imagine? They quickly put the set in a shoebox and left it outside, and it was picked up by somebody else. That someone admitted that the first time they ever cleaned and wiped it down, there were 3 or 4 dips in the lights above them. And every time they've cleaned it after that, the same thing always happens. The lights keep dimming. It ended up being sold to this person for $45, but I honestly think Mrs. Dillon killed her husband, then left the set behind, and now the spirit of her disgusting husband just cursed the set. But, plot twist, in his afterlife he realized what a horrible person he was, so to make up for that he just fills cups with tea. I don't know if that makes up for being an abusive husband, but okay.
In our 9th spot today we have the knockoffs. Sometimes brand name pieces can be expensive and we want the same or similar item but cheaper. That's where knockoff brands come into play. Take a look at these cereals. They're so similar, yet so different. So we got Cocoa Rice instead of Cocoa Puffs, we got Honey Nut Crispy Oats instead of Honey Nut Cheerios, Fruit Rounds instead of Fruit Loops, Marshmallows and Stars instead of Lucky Charms, Cookies instead of Cookie Crisp, and lastly, Kids Crunch instead of Captain Crunch. Now if I saw an aisle filled with those, I think I was transported to another universe. In our 8th spot today we have the map. Now let's get to a serious one. In 1929, a group of historians discovered something pretty strange. It was a map from 1513 written on the skin of a gazelle. It was created by a well-known admiral of the Turkish Navy. Well, what's odd is that the map included Europe and North Africa, the coast of Brazil, several islands, and even Antarctica. which was not discovered until 300 years later. Not only that, but it was said that Antarctica was not covered in ice. The last time that occurred was more than 6,000 years ago. So this whole thing just doesn't make any sense. How did this man map a continent that's been covered by ice for the last 6,000 years? Maybe he's from a parallel universe, or maybe the map is. In our 7th spot today, we have the stop sign. Again, another item that just makes me uncomfortable. Someone decided to create a lowercase stop sign, and it looks like it's like stop, no, just stop. Like it's too gentle. As a wise movie once said, no, stick to the stuff you know. It's better by far to keep things as they are. Don't mess with the flow. Stick to the status quo. If you know what movie that's from, I automatically love you. But maybe this person was driving around in another universe. Who knows? In our 6th spot today, we have the Oumuamua artifact. Hopefully I pronounced that right, because in another video I didn't, so now I'm changing the pronunciation. Let me know if I get it right, just be gentle, folks. In 2017, this object was found flying by in our solar system. Now it's quite weird. It looks like a space rock, but it's not a comet or asteroid. It's too small and oddly shaped to be an asteroid. This thing is long. In fact, this is now the most elongated known space object. Not only that, but astronomers were shocked by the condition of it. Astronomers thought that the first space rock to enter our solar system would be a ball of ice and rocks like a comet. But this isn't one. Now, not only is it not shaped like one, but there's usually a cloud of dust and gas surrounding comets, and this object just doesn't have that. But before scientists could study it too much, it left our solar system. All we know is that the strange object came from another solar system. Or maybe a different universe, and that's why it's so weird and unlike anything we've ever seen before. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the archless McDonald's. Imagine this, okay? You're hungry, you're driving down a road, madly looking for places to stop and eat, and that's when you see it. Off in the distance, you see 2 golden arches, and you know exactly what awaits you. The one and only McDonald's. Except whatever universe this is in, McDonald's only has 1 arch. Like hello, it's not Nick Donald's, it's Mick. So stop, okay? Or maybe someone messed up with the designing this restaurant, I don't know. Also, since when does McDonald's sell just bags of ice? Like look at the sign. Bag of ice, $1. I mean it's a steal nonetheless, but still, that's odd on its own as well. In our 4th spot today we have the Ulfberht sword. Now this is something scientists like to call an out-of-place object, and that's because the sword dates back from around 800 to 1000 AD, which is shocking since they didn't have technology to make such swords back then. Swords like this were made 800 years later during the Industrial Revolution. Not only that, but its carbon content is 3 times higher than other swords of its time. It also suggested that in order to make this sword, iron ore had to have been heated to at least 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? Again, they didn't have that technology to do that back then. So many people are perplexed. Well, there are a bunch of theories. One is that it was dropped by a time traveler, or 2, it might have come from a parallel universe. One that is far more advanced than ours. But let me know your theory in the comments below. In our 3rd spot today we have Lost and Found. A number of people on Reddit have shared stories in which they have lost something only for it to reappear in a place where it's impossible to. So let me explain. So one man said that he was with his cousin at Home Depot. Before they went in, the cousin grabbed his wallet, but he didn't have any pockets, so he asked the narrator if he could put his wallet inside his pocket so that he didn't have to carry it around. He agreed and he zipped it into his track pants. After shopping around at Home Depot for a bit, they went to check out, but his wallet wasn't in the track pants. So they retraced their steps thinking maybe it fell out, but nothing. So they decided just to go back to the car and return to the store later. When they got to the car, lo and behold, the wallet was on the dashboard. Which is wild because the cousin literally handed him the wallet and he zipped it into his pants. Now, one person believes that what happened was the universe glitched, and maybe in another reality, the man just left his wallet on the dashboard. Somehow those universes merged, hence why the wallet was on the dash. Now, it's all confusing how this stuff works, but that's me explaining it the most basic way possible. In our 2nd spot, we have the little dino looking figures. In 1944, thousands of little dino looking figures were dug up in Mexico. Only problem is that the pieces date back to 2500 BCE, a time when no dinosaurs were roaming around and people couldn't have possibly known about dinosaurs then. This is all according to scientists. So were there some other creatures that roamed the earth back then that we don't know of? Or is there a time traveling paleontologist out there? Imagine that, like Ross from Friends also being a time traveler. I love that. I don't know, or the object is from another universe. And in our number 1 spot today we have the ring. Now this next individual has a similar story to the Home Depot boys. So for her, she was washing the dishes one day when she heard a clink in her sink. Her ring that she took off when she was doing the dishes had slipped and fell into the sink and down the drain. Now it was just a cheap one, so she wasn't too concerned. It wasn't like her wedding ring. So she decided to just go on about her day. In the end, she forgot that the ring was even there. That was until a week later when she was putting on her shoes and felt something poking her toe. She emptied out her shoe and her ring clanked to the floor. So somehow, the ring went from being in her sink drain to in her shoe. Someone explain that to me. I don't know, maybe house elves are real.
In our number 10 spot today we have the Dybbuk box. The box, which was originally just a plain old wine box, is said to have been possessed by a Dybbuk, which, in Jewish mythology, is a malicious demon that takes over the bodies of living people and uses them for evil. The box began to gain attention in 2001 when it was being auctioned off on eBay. The seller explained that he had bought it at an estate sale of a woman who had survived the Holocaust. When he first opened the box, he found 2 1920s pennies, a lock of blonde hair bound with a cord, a lock of black hair bound with a cord, a small statue engraved with the Hebrew word shalom, a small golden wine goblet, 1 dried rosebud, and a single candle holder with 4 octopus-shaped legs. Since he bought the box, he reported that strange things began happening, such as really horrific nightmares for him and anyone who had stayed around or touched the box, and when he gave the box to his mother as a birthday gift, she suffered a stroke the same day. The box ended up in the hands of Zach Bagan, who is a paranormal investigator, and it now resides in his haunted museum. The box also gained even more attention in 2018 when Post Malone touched it, and has apparently been dealing with the repercussions of that ever since.
At number 9 we have a haunted clown doll. This sounds like the crossover no one asked for. Clowns and ghosts on their own are bad enough, but now we're packing them together in one complete package. This is like mixing a kick in the nuts with a slap in the face. It's rude and painful. Well, if you're trying to ruin your own life, then you should look this one up. You can find it on eBay for $200. So next month, why don't you skip on paying your car insurance and then put a down payment on a cursed doll that will probably make you have nightmares about being strangled to death by balloons. You know, if you buy something like this and horrible things happen to you, you kind of deserve it. Instead of trying to invite Satan into your home, why don't you take your money and invest it in a nice retirement savings plan? If you make the poor financial choice of investing in this doll, you can hope to be haunted by the 2 dead children who apparently wake you up by shaking your bed. These ghosts haunt the doll. So not only will your life be full of demonic forces, you'll get those puffy eyes that show the public how distressed you are.
Coming in at number 8 now is the bra, and yes, I am fully serious, I assure you. Now this bra was actually made in the 50s and it's a size 32A, and I feel like a lot of guys just don't actually know what that means, so I'm about to tell you. Now the number stands for the inches around a girl's bust, so the circumference essentially, and the letter is the size of the cut part itself. You're welcome. Now according to the seller of this item on eBay, Tonya_Rose, the bra is afflicted with the spirit of a sexy woman, and still not joking. Wearing it will give the person a constant stream of gifts and admiration, and you can actually reap benefits from it even if you don't wear it. If you place the bra by a lit white candle, you can actually see the woman's full body apparition right in front of you, and if it's a red candle, you can engage more explicitly with that apparition. I don't even know how that would go or who proved that that happens. I feel like some people will see this as a curse and others as a blessing, so I mean, to you, boo.
At number 7 we have an African Gula chest. At first glance, this thing looks like art your aunt would pick up after she reads a book about African history. Wow, Aunt Claire, you can really tell how you support African culture by the chest you bought that was made in China. But if you dive into the description of this a little further, you can see that this is not what it seems. Apparently a Gula chest is a wooden urn with carvings in it that is used to house the soul of a demon. The perfect housewarming gift for a new couple. This one I found on eBay and was the home of a ghoul jinn, a spirit which is supposed to be really bad. They like to mess your life up and cause all all sorts of havoc. So if there's someone in your life who you really don't like, then you should buy them this urn and have it sent to their home. The person selling this chest is a satanic priest, so you know this thing is legit. This isn't any bootleg Gula chest, this is the real deal. Upon purchase, the priest will send you instructions with the chest detailing everything about the spirit which is attached to it and how to handle it. I'm sure this is just like getting a fish. Watch a few YouTube videos and you'll be fine. A big note on this one is there are no returns. Once you buy this thing, there is no takebacks. Once it is yours, unless you leave it on someone's doorstep.
At number 6 now is an African voodoo hoof rattle. Now this one actually links in with Che's African Gula chest because they're both being sold by the same damn satanic minister on eBay. Now the hoof rattle is a whopping 9 inches long and there's only one like it in the whole world. Now Reverend Dante refuses to go into detail about exactly why it's cursed, he just says he finds it very unsettling. And if a satanic minister finds something unsettling, then you know something is very wrong with it, because even frickin' Satan couldn't scare him. Satan was a walk in the park for this guy compared to this voodoo hoof rattle. And I'm assuming because it's a voodoo rattle, it has all like the bad juju associated with said voodoo, because I mean, let's face it, if you're in possession of a voodoo item, your haters are just gonna be dropping like flies. Just innocently. Well, I don't know what happened. Just dropped like flies. Either way, missed me with that.
At number 5, we have the Crying Boy painting. If you're into collecting cursed items, this one will definitely be one you have in your storage room. Well, until it burns down. This painting has one of the most depressing histories to it. Artist Bruno Amadio saw a boy crying on the side of a step. Bruno was moved by the child, so he decided to find out why he was sad and had such a heavy burden in his heart. No, I'm just kidding. He set up shop and started painting the kid. Then he had the painting printed and started selling it, making great profits off the back of this broken child. Then the people who bought this painting had their homes burned to the ground. Apparently the child who was sad and crying alone with no one there to help him just had his family die in a house fire. The sorrow from this boy's soul now cursed the painting, and anyone who buys it has their home burned to the ground. There's even a rumor that after your home burns down, the painting is the only thing left standing. So next time someone sees a kid crying on the side of the street, maybe stop and give them a little help instead of trying to capture the moment for a quick buck.
Filling at number 4 slot is the jewelry box, and I know jewelry boxes are always just haunted or cursed, but this one is different. Again, the bio of every boy on Tinder, and plot twist, they are not different. Either way, this one is an antique jewelry box with a clock inside of it, so when you open it, the clock sort of just gets lifted up like this, and the jewelry part is like a little drawer underneath, and I hope you got what I meant from all my miscellaneous gesturing. Now the Utah-based owner shared that the clock stops at 3:22 AM constantly, and by now we know that the 3 to 4 AM window is witching hour, people. Not a good time. Now the lid of the box opens by itself all the time and weirdly enough almost sucks up jewelry. The owner said there have been times where she hasn't put jewelry in the box, but overnight it somehow just ended up inside of it. But then on other occasions she's woken up and the jewelry is just all over the floor like the box threw it out like it has a mind of its own. So if that sounds appealing to you, it can be yours for a mere $160 US.
At number 3, we have a Victorian birthing chair. Another gem from the world of eBay. If any of you at home are doing exactly what I did and are asking what the hell is a Victorian birthing chair, then let me just tell you it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a big old chair with a hole in it that you can give birth through. Think of it as a toilet if you wanted to poop on your kitchen floor. Back in the day, a lady would sit down in this and then shoot a baby right onto the linoleum. Apparently this particular birthing chair is embedded with all the torment of who knows how many ladies giving birth on it. I think that's a top-notch way to curse an item. Just have people use it while they're going through the most painful experience of their lives. The owner says some women died in childbirth while on this chair, raising the spooky factor at least 10 points. And if you're wondering how much it's going to cost you to curse your future with the angry spirits of dead women going through labor, it's $300. So right now you can pick up a PlayStation VR headset or a chair stained with placenta fluid. You know, this is a really tough choice. Is there any chance I could call a friend or ask an audience member? Where's Regis filming?
Coming in at number 2 now is the ring. Now this one is being sold by a seller located in Bury, London, who claims a sterling silver ring has a spirit or curse of a little girl called Evie attached to it. Now the ring is just a simple one that says sister on it. Now Evie was a young girl who was filled with hatred and jealousy towards her little sister. She despised her simply because she was a nicer person than herself, and so she'd always dream up ways to harm her, or she'd pretend to play nice with her when really she was just playing a nasty trick. One day they were playing in their garden and wandered off to a river nearby. They started playing on the riverbank, and Evie, overcome with what she thought was the most foolproof plan ever, decided to get rid of her sister for good by pushing her into the river. This is like Mufasa Scar level betrayal right here, like what is this? Either way, what Evie didn't think of was her sister grabbing onto her for help, which is exactly what she did. They both ended up falling into the river, and unable to swim, they both died upstream. Now their bodies were found a few days later, so based on all that, the seller claims whoever wears the ring is immediately filled with feelings of jealousy and hatred, so much so that the person can become dangerous to themselves or others. Now again, I don't know how that would seem appealing to any of you at all, but if you are interested, it's only £28.
And finally in the #1 spot we have Eve, another haunted doll. Do you think demons are attracted to dolls because they're creepy, or are dolls creepy because demons are attracted to them? It's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation. If you're not creeped out by Eve's appearance, then maybe the backstory will be enough to set you over the edge. Eve has the spirit attached to her. It's the soul of a young girl. This girl found her lover sleeping with her sister, killed them both, and then killed herself. Her soul is now forever tormented by being betrayed, and she is now dead, of course. The person selling this doll is very eager to get rid of it because she is kept up at night from the doll crying. Heartbreak takes a long time to get over. She also said the doll causes her physical pain like headaches, but that could be because she's just not getting enough sleep. And if you're one of the brave ones out there who want to buy Eve, you should know that she's selling for $1,666. Whoa, what a spooky price. I like how the seller added that extra 1 at the beginning. She was like, I want to get rid of this haunted doll, but I'm also not a sucker.